We are different. We have to understand we are different and like different in so many ways. And I recognize that, at one time it felt like, we're people, so we're both adults, we're both this age. You should be able to get what I'm saying, but we think differently.
Right.
So that's where the yin and the yang come together. Because the things that you lack, I make up for, and the things that I can't do, you make up for.
Yeah.
And it's just making it all come together, and
conversations like these help that understanding.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Like,
what's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us. So today we have a special guest with us, and we're going to first introduce ourselves. I go by the name Rob, and this is my wife Dee, and we have here.
Hey there, I'm Courtney.
All right, Courtney. So we wanted to first talk about, this show here is about relationships today, modern times, and dating in modern times. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off with this question. Mm-hmm. So what are your biggest challenges and frustrations with dating in the modern world?
I guess what it is it would probably be the stipulations that come with all of that, and what society projects onto people to think that this is what a relationship should be, or this isn't the way a relationship should be. Whereas I feel like, everything isn't for everyone. And, a relationship is about building with this person and determining together what works for both of you collectively, and meshing, it works together, But I say it's society's standards that are projected, or...
Can you give us some examples of what you mean by that?
I mean, well, they have the money thing, where we see these videos on Instagram where, I think there was a video recently where a girl went out on a date, and she expected the guy she was just ringing up the bell, and she expected the guy to pay for all of this and just be okay with it. Then there was another situation where, with this particular girl, it's so funny. She was like, she had a long list of restaurants she will not go to, restaurants she will not go out on a date to. And it's just like, to me, those are like Texas Roadhouse, like Fridays. They're not the highest restaurants or, the fanciest, but I mean, it's good enough when you're first meeting a person. Why are we having an intimate dinner in an intimate setting at somewhere like Fleming's or something like that? That's kind of intimate. It puts pressure on the whole situation. Whereas I'd like to go somewhere where it's a little bit more down to earth, where you can see a person for like how they interact in the public around other people and things of that sort.
Yeah, I think women, now I've seen that, the list of things they will or will not do. I think they limit themselves to opportunities and to experiences just because you're so hypercritical on what you will allow and what you will not. I always tell my husband, there's nothing I would not do with him. I don't care where we go, what we do. It's about the experience and having the enjoyment of the partner and the spouse with you.
Right.
And then also, too, I wanted to add, too, as well, like, while you're dating, it's an interview for marriage. So, being intentional about dating somebody, you want to put your best foot forward. And like my wife is saying, like, if you limit the type of places you will go, what type of message is that sending to the other person, about you,
And it's also about intentions. Like, like you said, when you're dating to marry, but some people aren't dating to marry, and that's what it's also about, being honest with people about your intentions. Not wasting people's time when you know that this is not what you want, because and I'll say this about men tend to, and women do this too, but right now I already went on the women. So the men, we got to keep it unbiased. So the men, they tend to see what they like. They see something in a woman that they like, that they want. And this woman wants this, though. This woman wants marriage. This woman wants, the house, the kids, the picket fence, all of that. Whereas this man just wants sex. And he's willing to act like he's willing to give her what she wants just to get what he wants.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like it's about the intentions and, you know, being as honest as possible. If people were more honest, a lot of things in the relationship world or the dating world would be so much better.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Going into the relationship with honesty and loyalty, thinking of, you know, with those intentions first on building
Right.
something as opposed to boys playing games with women's hearts and things of that nature. That
Right.
goes on a lot. That's been going on in our, you know, society for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what next question is, what is something you think will help bring men and women together?
Conversations like these, podcasts, because it builds up an understanding, and sometimes it even builds up awareness of the lack of understanding. Because as I get older, I'm 36 years old, I'll be 37 in a couple months, but as I get older, I realize that from past relationships I've been in, men don't get it sometimes. Like things that we expect, we are different. We have to understand we are different. And like different in so many ways. And I recognize that, you know, at one time it felt like, you know, we're people, so, you know, we're both adults, we're both this age. You should be able to get what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
we think differently.
Right.
So that's where the yin and the yang come together. Because the things that you lack, I make up for, and the things that I can't do, you make up for.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, it's just making it all come together. And
Conversations like these help that understanding.
yes, totally.
Yeah.
Like,
So do
it's because as I get older, I realize like I can't expect out of men or even people in general what I have in me.
Yeah.
I can't expect myself out of other people necessarily.
yeah.
So
Do you think society has done anything to even prepare us for relationships? Why or why not? Or, yeah.
as far as society, I don't think so, really, because what you see on TV is not, even the relationships we see on reality TV is not always what it really is.
Yeah.
We literally watch these people kissed up, hugged up on TV, and next thing you know, there's some scandal or there's some news about so-and-so split, and it was like, oh. And even then, it's crushing to us because they were so happy. No, they weren't. They pretended to be happy on camera. We fell for it. We lived vicariously through them. We lived a lie. It was a sham. And, you know, we don't, and not to say that they, you know, people who live in the limelight, you know, that are in the spotlight owe us anything, because I don't believe they owe us anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't sell a lie also. You don't have to show us the truth, but don't make it seem like what it isn't, because you're selling dreams to people. You have people get into relationships and thinking so-and-so did this for that, so this is what I'm going to expect. But little did you know all this person went through behind the scenes to get to this point or to get this, or how much begging, you know, you never know. So
Right. I think that is what's
I don't
missing.
think society prepares you. And I also think that I've said this recently. I feel like growing up as a young woman, maybe my mom should have been a little bit more transparent, but my mom was a respectful woman. She was the type of woman who kept that life private from her children, which
Right.
I respect. But I feel like if there was a little bit, and I don't know how she could have been transparent without oversharing as a mother to her child, but a little bit more transparency to see, you know, certain things would have probably helped. But of course, we regard it for whatever reasons, you know, for the right reasons. But I feel like, you know, we grow up and we're sold these fairy tale stories. And this is what we grow up thinking this is going to be. This is what we aim for. This is what we're, you know. So I think it starts young. It starts young, the expectations that are pretty much impossible to fulfill, because even in all relationships, even in good relationships, there was a bad moment at some point. There was a struggle, a hard time, but this is what relationships are about, you know, finding that person that you feel is worth going through the hard times with.
Yeah, I think you talked about that not too long ago, the silent generation. I don't know, of course, how old your mother is, but when you think of what's
Like
that
your
generation?
grandparents,
Yeah.
that generation, if they were together,
Swept it under the rug.
right, because they were just together. You know, they didn't have social media and all this stuff.
And even
they were
back
together.
then, they were having illegitimate kids and everything, but you just didn't know about it.
Right.
The neighborhood knew.
Right.
They talked amongst themselves, and that's another downfall. Social media. You know, there's a lack of privacy or a lack of discretion now. You know, so
So we can talk about that question then. So as far as social media, what impact do you think? So how has the rise of online dating and social media influenced patterns of attraction and partner selection?
yeah, I mean, yeah. I'd say simply with like the faking, and even the TikToks, you know, where I mean, because it happens with TikTok a lot. I notice, and I'm not even a big TikToker, because I'm more of a stick with what I know person. So you know, TikTok came along and was like took the world by the storm, and it was just like, okay, but I realized even because TikTok carries over to the other social media platforms, so I've seen many a times where there are famous couples or viral couples who do the get ready with me in the morning TikToks, or they do the TikToks where they're showing how much they love each other or they're spending time or whatever. But then next thing you know, you hear there's a whole list of things. Like recently, I think there was a couple. I think they were a lesbian couple, and they were like big on TikTok. Like her wife spoiled her. They were really big. People loved their relationship, lived vicariously through them. Probably thought that this was what they wanted. You know, they admired them. And then like it came out that this girl was like, the wife was like running a whole like Ponzi type of scam situation where the other wife didn't know, and like the police had gotten involved, and it was just crazy. And she was talking about how manipulative she is and all this, but that's not what y'all been showing us.
Right.
You know, that's not what y'all have been showing your audience.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it. Like us, because, and a lot of people don't understand how real social media is for some people. They're living in this reality of social media.
Yeah.
You know, so, and even our kids that are in this, the millennials, they're in this era, whereas your life is on TikTok, and whatever life you're living on TikTok is your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, I would say that a lot of couples, that's kind of what I think makes us different with our show, and on purpose, was we didn't care so much to highlight all the lavish things of being in a relationship, but more so to give the actual advice of what do we do to help make this work? What are some things that we do? What are some steps that you can do? What are some just general advice?
People know, hey, this is a normal thing.
Yeah.
It's a struggle right now for us, but this is a normal bump. This is not something to be scared about. This is not something to feel like breaking up over. It's not that serious. It's just something we have to get through, because we saw so-and-so, they went through this and they got through it. You know, it's like a testimony that passes on. But, you know, we don't have a lot of that. I think we get those moments rarely. And when we do get them, it's with drama. Like on shows that you really don't want to watch, like Love and Hip Hop and those type of shows. And not to be completely down on, I don't really watch the reality shows, because I live in reality, and I don't need to watch a whole bunch of rich people doing things. Like, you know, I just don't need that in my life. At one time I was into it when I was younger, way younger, but for some reason, and I try to catch up every now and here. It's just not for me, because it's just not realistic enough.
Okay. And that's unfortunate, because the younger generation is who watches and consumes more of that information.
And they're being brainwashed. And they are easily brainwashed, because they weren't even raised they're raised so much differently from us. They don't even know, better. They don't know better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get back on I guess more so about your dating experience as well. So, how has your approach to dating changed over time? And what have you learned about your experiences?
So,
With everything that you just said, especially now what's going on, social media, things that you've seen, and then also incorporate that with your experiences. So, how has your dating experience changed over time?
you know, typically, in the dating world, I've been in a few relationships that have lasted, years or months or whatever. Every time I get out of a situation and I get back out there in the dating world, I know for a fact I probably changed my approach. For one, I'm more guarded probably because now I have more to look out for because I learned my lesson from this last person because every person is a lesson. There's something that you learn to do differently or learn that this is not what that is or I don't want this or because I think a lot of times for one, what I realized is because I'm a real analytical person where I like to tear apart and I'm an overthinker. So I'm going to tear apart every situation so I can take accountability on my part as far as where things went wrong, but also take accountability for knowing what wasn't my fault. Or not take accountability for what, wasn't my fault. Because I never blame myself because I know that I give it a million tries before I finally say, I can't do this anymore. So with every relationship that I've gotten out of, every relationship that has ended, I definitely changed my approach. I definitely was more guarded for sure.
Okay.
I mean, because I'd be a fool not to be, because it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Right.
So if I keep looking for the same thing or keep letting certain flaws slide just because I'm so busy looking at the potential or what I do like in the person and I'm not paying attention to the red flags, that's on me. So I have no choice but to grow from each experience and hope that my partner grows from it also. And also that I better myself. That I, sit down and say, hey, you could have did this or you couldn't have done, because I never want to be the intentionally wrong person. I never want to be the person who's just toxic, So, yeah, I definitely believe that I change with every.
Have you learned anything as far as maybe the type of man you want, maybe what he would be looking for and how you could adjust yourself to attract more of what you want versus, something you may not have?
So, actually, I'm still working on that. I do know that I am, because like I said, I am very, I'm a problem solver. I try to figure things out. So I do change my surroundings. I try to go new places, new areas, new types of places. Because like I said, I'm a very social person, so I bounce around. I bounce around. I'm actually in a singles group on Facebook. And so we do a lot of events, speed dating, just events where we all meet up, have a good time, those type of things. So I do a lot of socializing. So I just try to make sure that I'm paying attention to the little things also, because you meet who people want you to meet.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
Until they get comfortable. Once you get past the love stage, that's when everything gets comfortable and you meet whoever for real. And that's what my biggest issue has been. I fall in love with the person that I met, but I never end up with the person that I met.
Yeah.
It's a complete facade. But I will say this also. I've also been the person who was super sweet and blah, blah, blah when I was met. And I changed. And not in a negative way, but it was more of I was holding a lot of me back.
Okay.
not trying to, I guess, be too much of me or be too much all at once. I was holding too much of myself back. And then once I got comfortable, I start giving you the full me, and you can't handle it.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm giving you all of me now. So you can't handle it. You can't keep up, or whatever the issue is, you know. Or, you know, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, whatever.
So what are some deal breakers in a potential partner, and what are those qualities? What are the qualities that are non-negotiable for you? So what the deal?
For me, for one, the number one is a man who doesn't take care of his children. That's the top one for me. Red flag for me is if a man, now this, I don't want to say this and sound like I mean it for, you know, a big amount of people, a big group of men, but or the larger percentage of men, but I feel like men that I've dated in the past, aside from the changing up and, you know, this and that, it's just like, for one, it's honesty. If you're a liar, I cannot deal with that. That's absolutely a no for me. But like men who have like a baby mom situation, but the child is still like a toddler or smaller, it's like, it's too fresh for me. I can't trust, because I've been in too many situations where men have lied and said they wasn't with their baby mom, they don't want to be with, or they're a good co-parenting situation or whatever.
Okay.
Well, in fact, they were still dealing with them. However, you know, so that's another thing for me. But that's not like for the big percentage of men, because some men actually have a toddler with their baby, with their child's mom, who they just are co-parenting, and it's nothing more. So
Right.
That's just not to leave anyone out. But yeah, that's another thing. No job, no car, no place.
You want a provider.
Yes,
Who can provide.
and that's a big thing for me also. That's another thing that I realized that I have to be more upfront about. I need a provider, because I'm a provider. And I don't want to be the only person providing. You know, I like to, you know, have a good time with my partner. I like to surprise you, like spend money spontaneously on you, you know, surprise dates, lunch date, you know, whatever. So I have to, it can't be one-sided, because then it feels like I'm being used.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'll never set myself up to be used or feel used. So it has to be a reciprocation. You have to be your love language, and that's what it's more about, making sure that the love languages match up. You can't, like, I'm a cuddler, I won't deal with anybody who's not a cuddler, because I'm lacking then. And then that's another thing, like the biggest, I think I kind of like spoke on it earlier, but settling. Just because I see certain things in a person, I kind of block out, you know, what may be red flags, because these other things just mean so much more to me. But in the end, all you're doing is like procrastinating a potential eventual breakup.
Yeah.
A man who finds a wife is favored.
And a virtuous woman prepares.
With in-depth instruction and personalized coaching.
Cultivate the skills to navigate a marriage for a lifetime.
Wifeconomics.com. Are you marriage fit?
The concept of settling, we've talked about that before. I think our society has kind of blended that word to mean and kind of switch it up, because originally it was a thing to want to settle down.
Yes.
You know, and it wasn't looked at as, oh, I'm not getting something that I want,
Right.
or I'm not going to receive something, but it was
Right.
more so of, I am wanting to have a life with just one person and let that be who I build upon with, not so much. And then it's been now, everybody doesn't think of settling as settling down. Back in the day they used to say, when you gonna settle down?
Right.
That was the
that
norm.
Was the push.
Yeah.
That also brings it back to the silent era though.
Yeah.
This is when there's a show called, so Straight Outta Compton, Michelet, the singer, she has her, it was a Lifetime show, movie that came out, and it's called Surviving Compton.
Yep.
And in the movie, her grandma tells her they see a neighbor getting beat on. It was a woman getting beat on by her husband. And her grandma tells her, if a man puts his hands on you, he's basically showing you that he loves you. Mm-hmm. If he didn't care to put his hands on you, he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
That was something that was promoted back then, and that leads into the silent era. Whereas the end of the movie, Michelet went through her relationship with Dr. Dre that was very abusive.
Yeah.
Then she went with Suge Knight, abusive. It took her to go through those situations and go to rehabilitation and come out. Whereas at the end of the movie, her grandma tells her, I'm sorry for teaching you that. You never let a man put his hands on you, that type of thing. So it was like coming into the era of women empowerment, Queen Latifah, women standing up and saying, hey, this is not it. You know, Eve had a song about her best friend getting killed by her man, things like that. So it brought awareness to that, but
yeah, that's true. A lot of information was probably given in the wrong way. Certainly, a man is not ever supposed to show love by putting his hands on you. That's not, ever acceptable. So that was certainly
but it brings it back to that old-fashioned settle down.
Yeah. And I think that in particular with that one, when it comes to settling down per se, that it was flipped. Then to now it's, we should have always taught discernment. Yeah. We never taught how to find good qualities that you look for in a person and be discerning when you see this person acting in a way that is what we call red flags now, and actually knowing, okay, this isn't someone I want to settle down with. It's not that you're, settling in the sense of I'm accepting something less than what I deserve. Right. It shouldn't be that, but it should be, yes, I'm wanting to settle down with a person with the right qualities. Right. With the person that can offer those things for me, But we never taught that. That kind of what we were talking about earlier, society didn't highlight how to be discerning, how to look for those right qualities. What should we actually want when it comes to the dynamics of a relationship, when it comes to what a man is supposed to offer and what a woman is supposed to offer. So it put now, what we're living in, a harder position to be living in because you're lacking so many skills in a way that is necessary for you to make proper decisions. So,
So I wanted to ask, what impact do you think the rise of single-parent households has had on today's dating culture?
Oh, wow. That's definitely, that goes back to when I said my mom, kept her private life, of course, away from her children. But she was a single mother. So watching her as a single mother and never a man around to even know how relationships really, I didn't have that example growing up. I do know at one time my dad was abusive to my mom. So that's what I got out of relationships growing up. And I knew it was wrong, but this is what I saw. I think it does make a big difference. Single families, and even for men, how can a boy grow into a man and a husband if he wasn't taught what a man and a husband is?
Right.
A lot of men, didn't have that example. So it leaves them kind of stuck when and that's where the compromising comes. Like, where the understanding comes, where it's like, I psychologically want to understand you so that I can help you understand me and what I need.
Yeah.
So yeah. I feel like, there has to be some kind of male role model that shows boys, hey, I'm the provider, or whatever. I know there's so many non-conventional relationships now, so
Yeah.
but shows, hey, this is what we do, or this is what we don't do, or if you want to do this, this is how you do it. If you don't want to do this, just regular things like how to change a tire, oil changes, simple things, So.
Yeah.
So I wanted to segue into this question. So what are your thoughts on traditional gender roles in dating and relationships?
I'm traditional. I'm very traditional in those matters. I traditionally, now I won't go as far as saying that I'm traditional to the extent of, because old fashioned ways were that the woman stayed at home and worked, and the man went out and he got, he earned them whatever.
Well, I would have thought this. Would you stay at home if he could provide for you? Or are you just one of those people that just like to work? One of those women that just like to work? If a man came to you and he said that I'm gonna marry you and I want you to stay at home and take care of the kids, I'm gonna pay off everything. Everything's paid. Would you do it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I definitely am a homemaker. I could definitely do it with no problem. It depends on how secure and comfortable this man has made me feel, because sometimes women have been tricked into those positions and they were only to be controlled, or they were tricked into those positions and they had to ask for like money if they wanted to do extracurricular things. Like, that's where my mind goes. So I want to be able to still do what I want to do,
Right?
With all respect to our relationship, though, but I don't want to have to keep asking you, for money. Like, if anything, I need credit cards, and I'm not saying I'm going to go crazy and spend, but at the same time, if you can't provide for me in a way where I would provide for myself, that's the only way I could do, is if you're able to provide for me and you're doing it for the right reasons. You're doing it because you love me and you want me just not to have that load on me, and you want me to be at home taking care of everything at the house, taking care of the paperwork, the bills, the taxes, the whatever. That's the only way it will work for me, because I just heard horror stories that sound like that they were meant to be dreams, but
And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people have.
it's a trap.
A lot of people have.
Some women, have been in those situations where, the man went off, he found somebody else. Now you have nothing. You didn't learn anything. You didn't learn any, you never had jobs. You don't have a job history. You don't have any trades or anything to go out there and be this independent woman now, because that's, so it's just, I definitely do it, but it has to be right.
Right.
It has to be the right person, the right way.
I think when I think of traditional, it seems like women now put a lot of emphasis on roles, men too, when it comes to the whole conversation. Let me just not put gender in it, but the whole conversation when it comes into it is more on like roles, like, oh, you gotta do this or you gotta do that. But in my mind, again, I grew up in a Christian background, so I stayed in the church. So with that, it was more of the woman wanting to take on the natural feminine role of being a nurturer, wanting to provide for the family, wanting to, first off, have the children have the best upbringing that they possibly could, whether that's providing home cooked meals or, doing the schoolwork, whatever that looked like for that family dynamic, but just wanting to be the carer, right? The nurturer of the, whole thing. And then also being kind, being loving, being gentle, that whole feminine aspect is really what to me stands out as being traditional for a woman. And then for a man, of course, course, wanting to be assertive, wanting to be a leader, wanting to be a provider, that go-getter, actually being God-fearing, actually being able to take direction of wanting to self-improve on yourself as a man, and then getting that direction from God, and then passing that down to be able to lead your family.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has been taken so much out of the conversation, where the focus is so much on roles that we forget the actual qualities that make the man and the woman of that traditional stature.
And it goes into submission and leadership. And I myself, I choose to be submissive, but only to a man worth leading.
We hear that a lot.
Worth being led by.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men want to lead, but they have like mindsets like Kevin Samuels. And it's like...
What do you mean, the mindset of Kevin Samuels? There's a lot of conversation I like to hear.
Well, Kevin Samuels, to me, he spoke a lot of foolishness. He expected women to do certain things. I wouldn't say he was traditional, because it wasn't traditional to me, but he spoke like a man who didn't like women. I don't know.
Well, a lot of people do say that.
Some things I can agree with him on, though.
Yeah,
That's why I don't want to...
But the thing that I got from Kevin Samuels was that he was trying to tell women that the type of man that you want and you're looking for, you basically... You have to look and review yourself, too.
Right.
And also realize that, is that man looking for you?
Right.
That 6-figure man, that man who's 6 feet 6 inches tall, and he has his old big house and stuff. Like, is he really looking for you?
Right.
And like, do you think that your lifestyle is conducive to what he's looking for in a wife?
Right.
So that's what I got from him. And then also, too, he was for the family unit, the nuclear unit as well.
And that's why I said I have seen some conversations from him that did make sense.
Yeah.
I've seen him on he would do like interviews where he'd have someone join his live on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen those where he said things that it was harsh, but it was true.
Right.
So I'll give him some respect in that matter. But then he spewed a lot of foolishness.
Right.
And I think that his delivery was off too.
Mm-hmm.
I think a
the
lot
men
of
do
things
that,
he said could have been said in a different way, and it probably the message would have been received differently.
Right.
Or accepted even.
Right. And then also he did say the reason why he gave the message in that way was because we come from hard lives.
Yeah.
So in order for him to penetrate that message to you, he got to give it to you like it's swallowing glass.
Right.
Like it got to hurt you in order for you to get it and for you to feel it.
Yeah.
So sometimes coming to somebody who's already hard up and you trying to give it to them easy, it goes through one ear and out the other.
And I agree with that, but it's just like it goes back to people saying one thing and doing another, because the way he passed was really weird. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really the opposite of what he says, what he's trying to
portray. Yeah, I get what you.
You get what I'm saying? And portray and promote. So it's like another guy or another person saying stuff or preaching about something that they can't even uphold themselves. It's all about being intentional. And that's another thing that I realized with myself. I've always been the, it is what it is type of girl. Whereas when people ask you, you get the famous question, what are you looking for? It was always for me, it is what it is. What happens, happens. Mm-hmm. I'm not forcing, just trying to be neutral pretty much. Like if love is meant to be, it'll be type of situation. Whereas I realized I need to be more intentional in manifestation for one. Intentional in saying, hey, I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. Because that's where I end up with these crazy situations. So I realized in myself it's about being more intentional as far as what I want.
Right.
Yeah, and aligning your thoughts with that.
Right.
Yeah, because you're more likely to then grab upon that. And then it's the same thing when you're trying to reach for somebody to give you advice.
Yeah.
You want them to offer it from a space of which they have worked through problems. Because, you know, a single person giving advice will more likely offer, oh, leave the person, oh, divorce,
Right.
oh, because they understand that life of being single. But when you're actually on the vibration of being married and you know you're not going anywhere and you're going to make it work and there is no divorce, then the answers that you offer is going to be a totally different way. You're going to look to more so problem solve and, okay, let's try it this way. Because that's what marriage is really all about. It's a lot of pivoting. Like, did this work? Nope. Okay, let's reel it on back. Try it a different way. Try it a different way. You don't just up and jump ship
Finding the
like
perfect
that.
match that fits for both. Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on, I guess, hypergamy? So, you know, women, you know, you hear a lot of times in this day and age that women want to find the best man for them, but oftentimes will ditch and leave the man that they're currently building with. And so what are your thoughts on hypergamy and increasing attention being on it today? So what is it looking like today? Like,
so you're saying basically women who have already been in a situation, they leave the situation to go to what seems to be a better situation. I think that's very popular. I think that's because, but that falls on us, because if that person was so easily for you to leave for whatever reason, you should have never been with that person in the first place. Yeah. And that goes back to the settling. And I'm not saying settling as if this person wasn't good enough for you, but he wasn't what you wanted.
Right.
And whatever you saw in him that you did want, you allowed that to overcast or overshadow what you did want. So, I mean, that falls on us as women. I'd never do it. Because I'm loyal. And I'm not just loyal to people, I'm loyal to myself and my integrity and my standards that I uphold for myself. Because I never want to be a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I
think women are naturally hypergamous in the sense of wanting to get the best of whatever they can, you know, their option pool, whatever that looks like. And so I think
that goes back to Kevin Samuels.
What do you mean?
You gotta be realistic.
Right.
Exactly. You know, you have to, and sometimes it's a reflection on us. Hey, if I want this, maybe I need to do this. Mm-hmm. I want this type of guy. Well, if I want a built guy who's into working out, I need to be fit myself.
There you go. Yeah.
He's going to want a woman who's fit himself. Why would he settle for what he, you know? So it's also, you have to realize that just as we have standards, men do. Mm-hmm. Some men.
Right.
And the ones who don't, I regularly have conversations with them like, why don't you have standards? You know, the men who don't have standards end up in the trashy drama-filled situations with the baby mama drama and this and that. And it's like, well, first of all, you should have had a standard enough to use a condom or not lay down with a woman that you didn't want to have a child with. Mm-hmm. Mm. That's where it all begins. So it's like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
So since we're talking about men's standards, so what do you think are the characteristics and qualities that real men are looking for in women today?
Or should look for?
What should look for?
Honestly, I think they're looking for honesty. They're looking for someone that's down to earth that can make them feel, and I don't mean this like in a validation way, but make them feel like accepted and loved. Mm-hmm. They don't want to feel used. A lot of men are feeling like women just want what they want, and that women, you know, are just out here trying to, you know, get what they can. They want to feel secure. They want to feel like they have that homemaker that can take care of everything at home. They want to feel like you're worth being with forever and that there's no reason to look at anyone else. They want that loyalty and that trust. And then they want for you also to be able to give them attention and time, like, you know, make them feel, you know, just as they want the same things we want, basically. They may not want it in the same form, but men genuinely, I mean, yeah, they're going to want what we want. I mean, we expect love. We expect to be treated. We expect to be, pay attention to us. We expect for you to notice, notice that we changed our hairstyle up. Mm-hmm. Men expect for us to notice the new haircut. Because if no one wants to be the only one paying compliments, no one wants to be the only one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like men are just looking to, because right now there's the thing out there where men are too emotional. Mm-hmm. Men are becoming softer and women are becoming harder.
Right.
And I think it's a balance. It's men want to feel like I can be vulnerable with you without you throwing it in my face later and calling me a punk or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They want to feel like they have that. They want a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially black men. Black men go through a lot enough in the world. So it's like you have to be that safe place. No one wants to, when we go out in the world, we're adulting. We're dealing with whatever is thrown our way. We have no control over these situations we go into, whether it's work, just out at a restaurant, just out at, a park, wherever. We have no control. So when I come home, I want peace.
Peace, yep.
I want peace. I've dealt with enough. I've taken care of you and the kids. I went out, had this hard day. I want to be able to talk to you about my day. That's another thing. They want to be heard too. They don't want to be over-talked, but they want to be heard too. That's another thing.
No, I can definitely relate with that because, my wife is a stay-at-home mother. Mm-hmm. And she wants to be heard too. So it's reciprocated. So the same thing that men do want often at times, it's a human thing.
Yeah, it's
we all want to
human.
be
It's
heard.
human.
We want to be taken care of. We all want to look out for each other naturally. That's what how
Right.
relationships build, and that
Because
men
even
do want
as a
peace.
stay-at-home wife, it's like, okay, well, don't assume I was just here and that everything that I did can be seen.
Mm-hmm, right.
Ask me how my day went.
Right.
Your kids got on my nerves today.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
If
They
I
did
haven't
this.
already told them. Yeah.
Because you're already texting as soon as it happened. Like,
Yeah.
but it's
yeah.
the whatever, the car acted up today. We need a new car, need a bigger car, or whatever, whatever the reason may be. But yeah, it's reciprocation.
I think one thing that we did not hit on yet was, and that's slightly perceived differently from the genders, is respect. I think men really value, I always say, women, we spell love, L-O-V-E. Men spell it R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Yes.
To be honest.
And that is it.
That's what they look at to see if the woman is going to create that safe space. Because can she respect me even when she's upset?
Yeah.
Can she respect me even when I, fell off and I'm not doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, but can she still show me respect and help me get it back together?
Right.
And
that
that's
is a big
important.
one. That is very important, actually.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Men really do value that. And I think with women now, more
being
so
stronger
Yeah.
and more, I guess, less respectful.
Yeah. Society within itself has gotten, less respectful. When I look, I'm big on manners in particular for my children. So with teaching my children, I'm big on, being polite, having manners and showing respect. Children aren't really taught that as much.
Right.
Like they need to be taught that. And it shows when you get older, the lack of respect that they just show for just regular conversation, regular people.
Right.
So that within itself, I think, is something society has to come back and bring in, ushering in more respect for one another.
Yeah.
So then women are understood, even more the respect of a man. And then, of course, men respect women as well, too,
Exactly.
because that lack of respect will be shown and reciprocated if, vice versa. So, yeah, that's just a toughie we're dealing with. But
Yeah. So, I guess kind of on a personal note. So, what are your biggest fears surrounding dating, especially in this modern time and things that you've been seeing?
Honestly, I'm very fearless. But I'd say my biggest fear is being lied to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest fail, is you making yourself making it seem what it isn't, or making yourself seem available when you aren't. That's the biggest one. People don't like to tell the truth anymore. And with the pressures of the dating world and the dating scene, it's like people feel even more reason to lie now. So
Do you think that's because of, social media and all of that?
they're trying to keep up with the facades. They're trying to keep up with the facades. And so they turn into a facade. They facade everything about their lives that could possibly be negative. And they show you all the glamorous, glimmering qualities of themselves.
Okay.
And they suck you in.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my last questions is, so what would you, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger you about dating and relationships?
Don't believe what you see on TV. Because I think a part of us as women also is, like I said earlier, those expectations that we're built up on. When in reality, every relationship is not going to be the Cinderella story. It's not going to be Snow White or, the stories that we've seen. So it's just like maybe we should have seen a little bit more about Hillary and Bill.
Yikes. Yeah.
Because if the expectations weren't set so high, a lot of the relationships wouldn't have failed so low. Like maybe they would have failed, but they wouldn't have failed as bad as they had, because you're trying to force the narrative of what society expects out of a relationship.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest fail for real.
I like that you said kind of just back that even now you're fearless with dating and relationships. And that within itself is so important, even with all the trauma, even with all the bad things we hear and all of that.
To ever make the next person pay for what the last person did.
Yeah.
I'm big on that because I see it. I see it every day. People treating people based off of what they've been through instead of treating them. And people use that as excuses in life instead of bettering themselves.
Right.
They'll say, well, I didn't have my mom, or I didn't have my dad, or I didn't have this, or my whatever died, or whatever. And it's like, okay, so what do we do from here? Did we know this happened? Are we going to use this as an excuse, or are we going to use this to become a better person?
Right.
Yeah.
Are we going to use this to drive that? Or, so I think that's a big part of it.
And that's all going to keep you, sorry to cut you off, babe.
No, go
but
ahead.
I think that fearlessness is going to keep you being able to be open to love. Because love and fear is not the same.
Because there's no point of dating if you don't have hope.
Right.
I don't want to be the person, I don't want to be a relationship version of Eeyore. They just, I'll try this again, but I know it's not going to work. No. I have hope for every situation or every situation that presents itself to me.
Yeah.
If I like the person. See, what I realize now is because with every relationship, like I said, I have changed with every relationship. The the list becomes longer. So it's like I like people not as easily. Not people, but in a relationship standard. And in the dating world, I don't really, it's like one red flag and it's like, all right.
Yeah.
If it's a red flag, that really is something that, I don't let those type of things pass anymore. So,
Right.
The dating world is really interesting.
We hear. That's why we wanted to
Especially
do this.
when you're no nonsense type of person. When you're a no nonsense type of person, it's like, okay, so gotta cut off another person.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I like that, the fact that the baggage, so you don't want to bring that baggage from a previous situation. It does make it harder to try to trust somebody and try to.
We're all unique. We all, one quality that we all have is we think we're different from the other person, from a different person. We're special because of our divine selves. So you have to realize, everyone thinks that way of themselves. So like I was talking about this with a girlfriend the other day. Like, one thing we don't realize sometimes as women is that we think us we got good sex, or we got good this, or we look good, that's good enough. It's not. It has to go past that. There has to be some substance, because at the end of the day, women are buying bodies now. When you can go buy a body and buy a pretty face, pretty much, you have to have something else to compete with. I mean, and it's not a competition, but it is. It is.
Yeah.
You're competing for your soulmate, for your man, because, many a times you end up with the wrong person. Your soulmate could be with the wrong person right now. You're probably with the wrong person right now, as you could be, so it's just like.
That's a good topic. That's a whole nother topic within itself.
Yeah, the whole idea of competition.
Yeah, the competition and what people are doing now in order to try to compete.
And keep up.
Yeah, make sure you're competing with the right things, though, like she said.
The right things and for the right things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But well, Courtney,
I think this is great.
Yeah, Courtney, we really appreciate you participating in our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And also too, like, did you wanted to like provide a handle as far as social media or anything like that?
You can find me on Instagram at just call me Judy87. All the words are spelled out correctly. No underscores or anything. And on Facebook, Courtney Michelle.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did want to say leave comments and open the discussion up for anything that we talked about. If you guys have any other input that you want to add, we'd love to hear that. Any, challenges, we down for that too. So, yeah, thank you.
And if you all can please like, share, and subscribe to our videos, we really appreciate it. Until next time, Blueprint family, we will see you all later. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.